I want to talk to you about something that seems, on the surface, like just a line on an economic chart: inflation. But inflation is not just an economic nuisance. Left unchecked, it can trigger societal collapse, war, famine, and yes, in extreme scenarios, the total destruction of civilization as we know it. Let's begin with a simple truth: money is trust. It's the glue that holds together economies, societies, and global cooperation. When inflation spins out of control, that trust dissolves. And when trust disappears, the consequences can be catastrophic. A brief history of destruction by inflation. Let's go back 100 years to Weimar Germany, 1923. After World War I, Germany was burdened with reparations. To pay these debts, it started printing money. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? In just a few years, the German mark went from 4.2 to the dollar to 4.2 trillion to the dollar. Bread cost billions. People carried wheelbarrows full of cash. More tragically, the middle class. Savers, shopkeepers, teachers lost everything. Starvation spread. The economy collapsed. What followed wasn't just a recession. It was radicalization. Desperate and humiliated, Germany embraced Adolf Hitler. That inflationary collapse, many historians argue, was the seed of World War II. One of the deadliest conflicts in human history, over 70 million lives lost, can be traced back, in part, to the breakdown of a currency. Inflation may start with numbers, but it ends with violence. Zimbabwe and Venezuela, modern echoes. Fast forward to Zimbabwe, 2008. Inflation reached 89.7 sextillion%. That's a number with 21 zeros. Farmers couldn't afford fuel. Supermarkets ran out of food. Life expectancy plummeted. In Venezuela, the collapse of the bolivar caused mass starvation and drove over 7 million people to flee the country, the second largest displacement crisis in the world after Syria. These aren't just economic crises. They are humanitarian disasters, triggered by inflation that morphed into full-blown societal breakdown. Could this happen globally? Now you may be thinking, sure, but those were isolated countries. Could global civilization actually collapse from inflation? The answer is, yes, if it happens in the wrong places, at the wrong time, and on a global scale. Let me explain. Since 2008, global central banks have printed over $30 trillion in new money. During the COVID-19 pandemic alone, the US increased its money supply by over 40% in less than 18 months. Similar patterns occurred in Europe, Japan, and China. Meanwhile, debt has exploded. Global debt is now over $315 trillion, more than 330% of global GDP. That's not sustainable. If inflation surges, central banks must raise interest rates. But raising rates makes debt unpayable. So they're trapped. The inflation-to-debt war feedback loop. Here's the real danger: a feedback loop. High inflation erodes trust in currencies. Governments print more money to fix things, which causes more inflation. As citizens lose faith, social unrest erupts. People panic, withdraw savings, protest, and in some cases, riot. Desperate governments may blame outsiders, impose trade restrictions, or go to war to distract from internal chaos. Wars, in turn, fuel more inflation. Through supply chain collapse, resource hoarding, and defense spending. Repeat until the system cracks. This is not theoretical. It's a historical pattern. Global interdependence, the tipping point. In 2025, unlike 1923, the world is deeply interconnected. A collapse in one major economy like the US or China doesn't stay local. It's like pulling a thread in a spider web, everything moves. If the US dollar lost trust, global trade would cease. Energy shipments would halt. Food prices would skyrocket. Civil unrest could spread like wildfire, not just in poor countries, but in wealthy ones too. Nuclear-armed powers might view this chaos as an opportunity or a threat. That's how inflation, a seemingly economic problem, could be the first domino in the collapse of modern civilization. Forecasting the future, plausible collapse scenarios. Let's project forward. Scenario 1: Inflation plus AI-driven job loss. As AI automates jobs, unemployment could surge. Governments, under pressure, increase welfare spending, financed by money printing. Inflation returns. Currency devalues. Social unrest erupts. Scenario 2: Climate shock plus inflation. A major climate event, say, a megadrought in the US or a sea level rise that floods key Asian farmland, causes a food crisis. Food inflation spikes. Panic buying begins. Nations hoard, export bans begin, leading to famine and war. Scenario 3: BRICS challenge the dollar. If countries like China, Russia, and India successfully replace the US dollar with a gold-backed alternative, confidence in fiat currencies collapses. Inflation in the West explodes as dollars flood back home. Economic isolation, sanctions, and war follow. Any of these could destabilize not just a nation, but the global order. What can be done? The good news? Collapse is not inevitable. We must treat inflation like a structural threat, not a short-term nuisance. Sound monetary policy, not money printing, must return. Debt reduction, especially in the public sector, is crucial. Food, energy, and supply chain resilience must be priorities. Civic trust and education. So people understand inflation and resist panic is key. And finally, international cooperation, not isolation, is essential. Because no nation survives alone in an interconnected collapse. Closing thoughts. I don't say any of this to scare you, but to wake us up. Inflation isn't just about prices. It's about trust. And when that trust erodes, so does everything built on it: law, order, society, even peace. History has warned us, again and again. Let's listen. Because if we don't learn from Weimar, from Zimbabwe, from Venezuela, we may find ourselves living in the collapse that future generations study and mourn.